You're listening to Wealth at Work, a show designed to help advisors think, make decisions, and cast a vision to create a business for the future. Hosted by financial planner, author, speaker, and CEO of Advisor 2X, Ross Marino.
Hello, Tina and Devyn. Look forward to having you guys at the conference. Are you guys ready?
We're ready.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I looked at your session and the title instantly grabbed my attention. It said, Getting Back to the Basics. And Devyn, I'll start with you. In order to go back to the basics, there's probably something that happened. There's a trigger, there's a prompt. What caused you to say, you know what, we got to get back to the basics?
Yeah, what was really interesting, when Tina and I started talking about this, we really wanted to make this a dynamic conversation between the two of us. So when you come into the room and you come into the session, expect to be a part of that discussion, to almost be listening to just a conversation between colleagues in the industry. So that was important to us, that we wanted to kind of peel the layers back of the formality of the discussion. But both of us really resonated, and Tina, I'll let her share her story, but we really were thinking about, we've got this global pandemic, we've got economic challenges going on, and we're looking across the different participants that we work with in these retirement plans. And they, really the foundational work, the financial literacy, the budgeting, the emergency savings, these basic concepts are things that if we could make improvements in those areas with those individuals, would we see better outcomes in the plans? And we felt like, yes, we would, right? If we could check the box on some of those basic needs, we could reduce stress with employees, we could create better loyalty within organizations. We could then start to talk about some of the bigger things that we need to focus on to get people prepared to retire. So that was really the catalyst, was really, again, just peeling back the layer and saying, okay, what do people really need right now inside this really challenging time? And the basics, that's always a great place to go to.
Yeah, that really sounds like to me, it's a human first approach, because you're saying, what do people need? You keep mentioning the people. And I think that's a shift that we're seeing in our industry, where we're really trying to dial into what is this person that we're listening to or sharing information with? What do they really need? And once that hits you, yeah, it's probably going to say, we got to get back to the basics. Now, Tina, did you have a similar experience?
I did. I've been spending a lot of time speaking with participants, and I've had questions about whether they could take their money out after they left their employer, really basic fundamentals that they didn't even really understand how the plan worked. And I realized that this is our day-to-day job. We get all of this, but the average person really doesn't understand how a 401k works. And so for me, it was going back to the basics of, these are the features of a plan, and this is how it works if you were to leave or stay, if you wanted to take a distribution, all of that. I really wanted to make sure that we laid out properly for participants, and we did it in a really easy, simple way.
Well, in the past, when we wanted to get back to the basics or we wanted to teach fundamentals, we'd shoot out an email, or maybe we'd hand out something, a hard copy, at an employee education meeting. But the way we did it in the past isn't necessarily going to work in the present. Have you found that, Devyn? And what are you doing about that?
Yeah, I think one of the ideas that we wanted to explore a little bit, and I know this isn't new for anybody who's going to be tuning in, but DE&I and DIBS and diversity, inclusion, various ways that you want to tackle that topic is very prevalent across the country, as it should be, in my opinion. But a lot of organizations really looking at that as well. And so what Tina and I really wanted to talk about is kind of pointing it right back at the advisor to say, what are you doing inside your practice? How are you leveraging this conversation with your team structure? Are you creating diverse teams? If you think about the employees that work within these organizations, if you're on the institutional side, which is what I'm on, that they're not one size fits all. We've got varieties of individuals, we've got different perspectives, we've got different thought perspectives, we have different cultures and ethnicities, which is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to put our brains around. And so really just looking at how you're structuring your team, are you leveraging that DE&I conversation, creating diverse teams to reach more of your audience and to relate? So that's something we really want to dig into and talk about.
I think for a lot of advisors, a lot of people that own firms, and I was guilty of this many years ago, so I'll say it, saying I was guilty. You hear diversity and you think, okay, you're right, gender and race. I mean, lazy, right? Totally lazy, but that's what you thought many years ago. And
Yeah.
I think it was a conversation I had with Fred Barstein. And fortunately, it was many, many years ago. So I wasn't this clueless last month, right? So this was many, many years ago. And he talked about the power of diversity of thought. And it goes so deep on how people grew up, what their culture is, how they think, their mental models, and how that really adds value to it. And that's a way to approach business owners of this is why you have to go so far beyond checking the box. This isn't just a good thing to do for society. It is so much more than that when you actually go beyond that. And as I was listening to you, I was thinking that that's really where you're kind of going with this. So when it comes to figuring out what really works right now, is it as simple as just saying, let's just try to do diversity, or do you do a little more? I mean, what are you doing, Tina?
Yeah, it's definitely more. And we look for a variety of different cultures, backgrounds, but also it's not so much of just bringing those folks into the firm. It's also creating that culture where they do have that sense of belonging. They do feel like they have a voice, and you're promoting that diversity of thought. And so there's a lot of layers to it that you can't just stop at the hiring process. That you need to make sure that they're really that they're promoting ways that they can get their ideas across, and that we come up with these new ways to approach these things when we are going back to the basics. That we're thinking of new ways to engage with our clients and our participants.
Yeah, it's so much more than just
Well said.
expecting everybody in the conversation to just say what they feel and think that all of a sudden this is going to work out because, hey, we put a bunch of ingredients in a bowl and guess what? All of a sudden we made a cake. Nah, it doesn't quite work that way. So to promote that, to encourage that, that's certainly something that I don't know if it's going to be instinctive for a lot of advisors or business owners. I don't know what their thought process is growing up, but whether you thought of it or not, you definitely have to be intentional. And that's what I'm getting as I listen to you guys. And I love that because that's how you figure out what works now. You have to be intentional. You have to ask and listen and figure out how to get things done in a new way. So I'm actually going to do a quick pivot. Love the work that WIPN's done. Always loved that WIPN is a partner of ours. And it sounds like this year at the beginning of this conference, as usual, we have a happy hour. We have a get together for WIPN, but I think this one sounds pretty cool. Anybody want to share details on that?
Yeah, so both Tina and I work with WIPN, and there's going to be a fun get together on Sunday at 4:00. Tina, do you want to share any other nuggets?
We're just going to ask any women that are attending to come on in, and we'll definitely have some fun. We'll have some icebreakers and do a lot of networking, make those connections.
Should be a good time.
Yeah, and as you get there, you'll find directions, and we're at Paris, the hotel in Las Vegas, and the WIPN event isn't actually in the hotel. It's going to be near the Eiffel Tower, as in up in the private room in the Eiffel Tower. So talk about a room with a view. It's going to be pretty cool. So come join the ladies there. It's going to be awesome. Tina, Devyn, look forward to seeing you guys out there.
Thanks so much.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for having
Roz.
us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Wealth at Work. The information covered and posted represents the views of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of Advisor 2X. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investment advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.